My name is Jeremy. I am your show host as well as a relationship and confidence coach for Asian guys. And today we have a really special guest on the show, Val Senan from The Finest Man. Val, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me here, all the way from Singapore.
Sure, for sure. So Val and I were just talking a little bit earlier about the issues that a lot of Asian guys, specifically Singaporean men, are facing. And before we dive into the juicy details, just so our listeners know, Val, like what is your story? Because I read it online and
Yeah,
I think a lot of readers would benefit from your journey and as
yeah,
well as knowing about your philosophy.
sure. All right, I'll try to give the story in a very summarized version so that it hits home really quick.
Mhm.
Now, basically, I guess I was just like any other ordinary average guy out there, and well, you see, I was really clueless, frustrated with my dating life because I didn't know like what was going wrong. I mean, it's not like I was scared of women. Yes, I was a shy kid growing up and stuff like that. Um, but the thing is that I just didn't know what to do in terms to pull the trigger to get them to actually commit to being my girlfriend. So it's like I tried going after girls, but the thing is that it's always ending up in the same manner. Like uh, either I'm gonna get friend zone or completely the answer is just gonna be no. So for years, I figured is there something wrong? Do I have to learn something? Is it, and then suddenly insecurities start to creep in. And that's the worst because you start to feel as if you're inadequate and you feel like, oh shit, there is something really wrong with me. It's not her, it's really me. And do I even qualify to call myself a genuine man? Like, do I even qualify to call myself a real man? And that's why I started to seek help. Like, I remember I was 21 because you see, the things that when I failed with women, the very first thing I did was I asked my friends for help, and that's the worst thing that anyone can ever do. Okay, the
That's
worst
very
thing
true.
that's the first mistake I did. And please, I mean, whoever's listening in, please don't make the same mistake because the very first thing you'll do is ask your buddies for help. Like, hey, bro, yeah, I've got this problem and I'm not sure how to overcome it. And the first thing they'll say is they'll try to recommend you their solutions, which is actually meant for them and it's not
Mhm.
meant for you. So you start doing things that are not meant for you. And you end up completely humiliating yourself in front of the whole world. So I had a really bad experience with that because when they recommended me like to go to bars and clubs, I'm like, okay, fine. But I had no idea what to do in a bar or club back then. So I would just go
Mhm.
there like, oh wow, okay, it's so loud. So what do you want me to do there? Like, oh, you got to dance, man. I'm like, okay, and then oh, you have a drink and talk to. I'm like, about what? Like I don't even know how to say hi. You see, so that fell flat on its face. The very first thing
Mhm.
that I did. And the second mistake that I did was really try to act all macho and alpha because I've seen so many YouTube channels, I've read so
Oh
many
man,
blogs and so much articles, and they're like, yeah, you gotta be alpha, you gotta put your shoulders back, you gotta sit with your legs all wide out, and like take up space. It just looked kind of weird. Now looking back now, the girls were thinking like, why is this guy sitting that way? Is his balls really that big? Like you
I just imagine you like spreading it like incredibly
spread
wide.
eagle.
It's like,
Yeah,
wait.
I know, right? It's like imagining that you're the Hulk, and then you bring your voice really low. When you bring your voice really low, girls will be thinking like, "Is this guy like having a sore throat, or is he like just hitting puberty?" It's really
Mhm.
ridiculous. It's really really stupid. See,
Mhm.
and that led to another mistake which I did, and that was asking them too many questions because I felt that awkward silences are the worst to have during dates, and I realized that I have so many of them during my dates. So I went online and I started looking for things to talk about and questions to ask, and all my dates from then on ended up being question after question after question to a point where the girl
Mhm.
felt like she was being interviewed, and it was really
Mhm.
bad. Like she's like,
Yeah.
"Why are you interviewing me?" She didn't even get to know me, you see, and
Mhm.
then it struck me. I'm like, okay, maybe this is not the right way to go about doing it, right? And then I went down the path of like, okay, how about I just be super friendly to them? Because in Asian culture, like when you're really friendly to someone and very warm, you hope that they would like you back for that. So
Yep.
I did that for the longest time. I was very friendly, gave so much value to them, and like really took care of them. And I was like the go-to guy. When they're having problems, I'm like, oh, it's okay. What's wrong? Tell me
Mhm.
what's your problem. And guess what? Because of that, they're like, you know what, Val, you're a really nice friend, and we can't. bear to hurt you, and you get the typical LJBF, like let's just be friends.
Yep.
And that was it. That was it, man. That was the mistake. I mean, these four mistakes. That the fourth one was the one that really drove the stake into my heart, and I was like, you know what, screw this shit. I really got to get this fixed. And that is when I did the fifth mistake, which is actually the biggest mistake in my opinion, and that is I went down the dark road of learning to become a pickup artist. Not that it was all that bad when I started learning it, because I did gain the confidence, I did gain the skills to speak to women. But you see, with that comes the whole psychology of not even psychology. In fact, the whole culture that women are just scores.
Yeah.
You know, they are conquests that you have to conquer, and that was ingrained into my whole mindset, my whole mentality for a good 2 years, and it was crazy. I mean, every time we would go out and game, and all we would think about is like being, getting the girl, and who could sleep with the girl the fastest, right? And that to me was really like, after a while, it got very lonely, very dark, and I realized like, shit, this is not the right way, to go about doing it. Because I started this journey to get a girlfriend, but what I'm doing right now is I'm getting lots of dates, lots of women. I'm seeing lots of women, but I'm not really contented. I feel very empty on the inside, because it's like after a while they leave. So that really kind of crushed me on the inside, and it caused me to go on a personal journey where during that personal journey, I asked myself, what is it that Val really wants? What is it that I really want? Because I was confused. I was lost, and this is where the insecurities crept back in, you see. So in this personal journey, that is where I learned so much more about myself, because I said, the first thing I got to do is make myself happy before I can add that kind of happiness into the lives of others around me. So throughout the personal journey, I went to fulfill one of my passions, which is actually doing performances and being an actor of sorts. So through that journey, I discovered a lot of things. I mean, as an actor, I realized, okay, so this is how it feels like to be doing something which you truly like, and truly to be alive. And with that came the whole passion of, now with this newfound energy, where can I direct it to? And that's where I stumbled upon the whole realm of life coaching. And I told myself, like, wow, this is amazing, because this is a platform where I can really help people. So as I met different life coaches, learned from different mentors and teachers, one thing crept up, and this voice in my head told me that, hey, you should go back to the dating niche, because there are so many other guys out there who need your help, and now you found a proven system that doesn't rely on pickup, that allows men to really go out there to find and keep the girl whom they really want. So it took me a while, but after about 5 years of research and doing all my back end work, I put everything together, and here I am today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And I want to just dive into the juicy stuff. I was listening to your entire story in detail, and there was a point that you talked about that I really want to expound on. The whole point about insecurity started creeping back. And I think a lot of guys, and I'm going to speak from my experience, I wanted to be with a lot of women because I wanted to, one, part of it was just I like sex. The second one is I actually want to feel comfortable in my skin. However, I did find something similar where even despite being able to get girls and hook up with girls, when I would get into like these half relationships with them, or as one of my friends calls situationships, or even like a relationship, all the insecurities would surface because it's a very different thing. And when it comes to casual relationships or even like one night stands, there's not a lot of emotional investment. But when it comes to really getting to know someone over time, they're going to see more of you. And I want to hear from you. How did you go about addressing those insecurities? And what advice would you give to guys that are maybe listening and thinking like, yeah, well, still I want to sleep with a lot of girls and I don't need to worry about insecurities. Like, what advice would you give to them? And how would you tell them to actually become a confident man who's still able to get what he wants in his love life?
Right. Okay. I think this, to me personally, right, like from what I'm hearing, I did face some of those insecurities, like, really being comfortable in my own skin. You see, I suffered from this very overly nice guy syndrome.
Yeah.
And that can be a very paralyzing syndrome. And I'm very sure like a lot of people listening in, they can relate to the fact that being a nice guy means sometimes being a pushover or not rocking the boat, always maintaining the status quo. Because when we don't maintain the status quo and we accidentally piss a girl off, just by maybe saying or doing something, we feel bad. We feel like the whole world around us has crumbled. And back then, that was me, right? That's the reason why I had to rely on pickup, because it's like when I relied on that, there was a shield between the real me and the image that I portrayed. And because of that, I felt confident, but that's fake confidence. That's not real confidence. Now, to jump right into real confidence is basically, number one, understanding. Actually, I spoke to this about, yes, I just coached a client yesterday, and I told him about this. Like, I guess the problem here is fear. Like, a lot of people, you see, it's interesting. A lot of people fear.
Yeah.
They're afraid of fear, right? And this is something which I picked up like just recently, like 2 weeks ago, in fact, and it reminded me of one thing, and that is people always talk about, okay, if you have fear, if you have limitations, you have weaknesses, work on them. Yeah, that's all fine. We all know that. But when that happens, we spend too much time and energy on the fear and the problem that it actually multiplies, because our focus is all driven there, right? And where you push your focus to, that is the thing that grows. We don't spend enough time focusing on the things that we're good at, or the things that we are known to be best for. And because of that, that is where we feel uncomfortable. That's where we start to feel distant. That's where we want to, put on a shield in front of us, because we're afraid that, oh, what if she really sees the side of us, But, and why these kind of thoughts come up is because of the fact that we feel that we're not good enough.
That's
right?
It.
We feel that we're inadequate. We're like, we're never good enough. But here's the thing, we already actually are. It's just that we don't put effort into realizing that we really actually are good enough in the first place. And that we need to understand that the fear, the limitations, and the weaknesses, they're actually good for us. Because if they're not there, then you don't have a balance. And when you don't have a balance, you're going to be lopsided. You're going to always be like on this full-time high. Like, you're like always on weed, always so happy, always so positive and optimistic. But that's not the case, because there always has to be a plus and minus. So the weaknesses are there to ensure that your strengths will always be kept in check. It cannot be lopsided. Yes, you have weaknesses, you see, but my take, and I know a lot of people are probably gonna like, whoa, what the hell is Val saying? Like, like my take is that weaknesses should be there. Like, you can acknowledge them, but here's the thing: don't focus on them. A lot of people make the mistake of focusing on them. A lot of guys like just keep focusing, like, I'm soft-spoken guy. I'm skinny. I'm not too big size. I'll never get the girl. See, they keep focusing on that. They keep trying to find a solution to that. Where in actual fact, they should be focusing on the things they're really good at and making that thing excellent. Instead of just good, they should be masters at that, so that they're known for that. Because when they're known for that, nobody's going to talk about their weaknesses.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it reminds me a lot actually about career coaching. It's funny, my girlfriend, she's trying to get into tech, and since I used to work in tech, I'm helping her. And she's like, oh my God, you'd be a good career coach. I was like, I don't want to do that. But it is a similar concept where you got to lead with your strengths, because the reality is we all have weaknesses. And yeah, it is possible through deliberate, consistent practice to not allow the weaknesses to sabotage you and all that stuff. But I think a lot of guys, you're right, where they're always focused on the problem. And how they can't overcome the problem, because oftentimes guys wanting to get better, they will not only just focus on the problem, but they're going to judge themselves and be really hard on themselves. And it becomes like we make it into a thing to overcome. It becomes a monster. And just to go from my practices in mindfulness meditation, it's not the thoughts themselves that cause anguish. It's our relationship to them and the emotional charge we put behind it. And a lot of people judge themselves and beat themselves up. And this actually leads to my next question. You really hit the nail on the head. I think for a lot of Asian guys, especially the shame part, because we grew up in a culture, like, Asian parents are just like all about saving face, looking good. And what happens is Asian guys they either rebel, but most Asian guys just fall in line and try to always please their parents as a way to get love. And that actually happens when they become in a relationship with a woman, or they try to get in a relationship or date a girl, they do the same people pleasing thing with the nice guy syndrome, where they try to do shit for her. And what happens is the girl says like, let's be friends. And
Oh,
they're
yes.
confused and everything.
Yeah.
And the question I have to tie to it is the guy, let's say the guy's like, Val, what you're saying actually makes sense. I really understand it. I know that I've been a nice guy and I know I should say no to girls more and stand up for myself, but I can't bring myself to do it. I know I should, but I just can't do it. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like where their body locks up. It's
Yeah.
the term approach anxiety, where
Of
their
course.
fear is just locking them up. What advice would
Yeah.
you give to them?
Oh, okay. Well, here's here's me being very well, straight up and unshameful. Well, just get a coach. Straight up. I mean, yeah. Okay. To be honest, like, um, I wouldn't want to go into nitty gritty in terms of like, how do you unlock, because it's just too much info. Like, straight personally for me, if that happens to me, the first thing I'll do is look for somebody who has experiences, and I'll ask that person to guide me or help me. Because with a mentor or coach, that's where you get your results fast. And you need someone there who I think this is a thing which a lot of people don't realize. They need somebody who has walked down that path. And somebody who knows how to guide you from point A to point B. And that's the fastest way. I mean, that's the fastest hack that I can actually recommend, because, when you start to feel like, no, I can't really do this, your friend is not your coach. Some people might be thinking right now, I'm going to ask my buddy. It's not going to work, man, because your friends, they're your friends. They're not going to be harsh on you. They're not going to be, or some of them are going to be too harsh on you to the point where you guys are not going to be friends anymore.
Yeah.
But if you get a coach or a mentor, this person will know how to push you, but at the same time give you positive feedback and constructive feedback in terms of what you should do to improve.